Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our regular meeting, Sueur City Council, dated December 27, 2022. At this time, I will call our meeting to order, and we will begin with the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council members, we were all given the packet earlier, or late last week. You've had an opportunity to look over the packet. At this time, I will entertain any motions to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Councilmember Sullivan, Councilmember Williams, any discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to consent agenda. All items on the consent agenda are considered routine and have been made available to the city council at least 2 days in advance of the meeting. These items will be enacted in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a council member or citizen so requests, in which event it will be removed from the agenda and considered in normal sequence. At this time, I will ask our city administrator to review these consent agenda items with us, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Pretty abbreviated consent agenda tonight. Item A, approved city council minutes from the regular December 12th, 2022 meeting. Item B, approved disbursements through December 27th, 2022. Included in those disbursements are 4 items over $25,000. First is to MMPA, Avant Energy, for November 2022, purchased power for $572,152.09. Second, to Magni Construction for well number 8 and well house payment application number 15 for $142,213.04. Third, to the Minnesota Department of Revenue for November 2022 city sales tax, $43,256. And finally, to Landmark Structures, payment application number 15 for the composite elevated water tower for $34,295. Moving on to item C is approval of payment application number 2 for the Airport North Taxi Lane construction. And item D, approved fire chief reappointment of current fire chief Jesse Wenish.
Thank you. Any council member have any questions regarding the consent agenda for Mr. Roby? If not, I will entertain a motion to pass the consent agenda.
So moved.
Councilmember Swanberg, seconded by Councilmember Schleter. Any discussion, comments, concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to public comment. Do we have anybody who signed their sheet? No. According to Mr. Swanberg, we have not. We will double check. And if not, nothing there.
Nothing there.
Okay, very good. Moving on to the city administrator update. Mr. Roby, if you want to share your thoughts and comments with us, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Pretty brief update as well for me tonight. First of all, we had a great employee recognition lunch last week. It must have been last week. It was the weekend before. I've lost my days. Today's Tuesday. I thought most of the day today was Monday. Last week down at the Pizza Ranch, and really great opportunity for city staff to get together. It worked out perfectly with the timing of the blizzard. Drivers and everyone were able to come up and celebrate some years of service. So appreciate all the staff coming out for that. And it was nice to see a couple of council members there as well to see our staff get recognized. I would like to thank all city staff, in particular public services and public safety crews, from our public works operators doing our plowing, street cleaning, sidewalk maintenance and cleaning, our water wastewater operators, our electric linemen, police department, fire department, who were all very, very busy over the last 4 to 5 days, putting out fires, literal and figurative, to deal with the weather. Everyone maintained power that I'm aware of. There were some minor things that came up around water and wastewater, which were handled very promptly. Police department, fire department were both very, very busy, and we had a really really nice line of communication between our police department, public works department. During a snow emergency, that's something that both departments have put a lot of emphasis on this year's communication between public works and the police department to ensure that the police department who are working parking enforcement and public works operators who are making sure the streets are cleared are both working together. So we can get our streets cleared, and we have a police chief knocking on doors, asking people, begging people to get their cars moved off the streets. So thanks to all of them for getting us through the weather the last few days. Public survey results are in for our rec facilities master plan public survey. So the survey that was issued a few weeks ago from Bolton and Mank and our design crew, the survey closed a little over a week ago. We received a document with those results. We haven't analyzed them all. Of course, you can imagine we can pick them apart 16 different ways. Very, very interesting results, and I'm looking forward to sharing those with City Council. We will be having a staff meeting next week to meet with the design team and the engineers to review the results and start to parse them out to help answer some questions. There's some broad strokes things that are apparent from the results, but we need to peel back the onion a little bit on those to try to combine certain answers with demographics and things like that. And tomorrow, I know this has been on social media, on Nextdoor, but tomorrow at the middle school and high school, Sueur County, in partnership with City of Sueur, Emergency Management, Police Department, Fire Department, will be conducting an active violence training session. It's an all day. They have 2 different sessions during the day, one from 8 to noon and one from 1 to 5. At the middle school, high school, there's going to be a lot of law enforcement and emergency response vehicles at the middle school, high school. Really appreciate Chief Tiki and Fire Chief Wenish and Emergency Manager Justin Nielsen for all their help coordinating this with Sueur County. It's a great exercise. Unfortunate that we have to do it, but very happy that we're able to participate in it and to the benefit of our community. So looking forward to some takeaways there, and don't be surprised by all the emergency vehicles at the school tomorrow. That's all I got for today.
Very good. Any questions for our city administrator, Mr. Roby? If not, we will move on to our regular agenda, if we may. And there's only one thing on the regular agenda, and that's item 7A, consider municipal legal service proposal. Mr. Roby, do you want to review that with us, please?
Thank you, I would. And I'm going to really quickly here jump into, if the mouse will allow me. All right. So I'll talk through this. We do have a guest on the line as well. He wasn't able to meet in person, but he did agree to join kind of last minute at my request at the meeting today. Oh, and there he is, Mr. Robert Scott with Flaherty and Hood. Before we get to Mr. Scott, and I appreciate you joining, Robert, I do want to talk through this agenda item. So just to recap where we've come from a legal services standpoint as a city. After several decades using Anderson Skubitz law firm for the city's general legal support, back in early 2020, City Council agreed to go up for requests for proposals to law firms to search for new legal representation. That process garnered 6 different proposals with 3 finalists who were selected for interviews by City Council. Those 3 firms at the time were Corey and Rupi, Kennedy, and Flaherty and Hood. And with an end result of in July, August of 2020, City Council approved a contract with Corey and Rupi that would terminate December 31st, 2022 for municipal legal services. And just for some further clarity, of course, the city utilizes legal services in a broad scope, everything from environmental law, planning and zoning, employee law, to criminal law. And currently the Sueur Police Department still utilizes Anderson and Skubitz for prosecutorial law. So that's the police need to charge someone or wish to charge someone who's in violation of the local laws. They work with Anderson and Skubitz. This is for everything else, our day-to-day legal, from resolution drafting all the way through significant employee and personnel concerns. This is the legal support that we're discussing today. So earlier this fall, in October, staff made a recommendation to City Council to approve the issuance of a limited request for proposal to the two other finalists from 2020, both Kennedy and Flaherty and Hood, requesting proposals from those two firms to come before City Council and review for pursuit of a contract following the natural termination of Corey Ruby's contract at the end of this calendar year. The RFPs were sent to the two firms, Kennedy and Flaherty and Hood, with a deadline of December 9th. Kennedy did acknowledge receipt of the RFP, but chose not to submit the proposal. Flaherty and Hood responded with the proposal before the deadline. And so what you can see here and what you have in your packet is the initial timeline of events that was laid out back in October as part of the City Council approved RFP process. And before we get specifically into Flaherty and Hood, I just want to refresh again for proposed scope of services, and this is fairly somewhat of a limited list, but anything and everything from a legal standpoint, other than prosecutorial issues, would be handled, are currently handled through Corey Ruby, and code enforcement, ordinance resolution development, contract law, development law, working with the EDA, attending meetings, consultations, legal interpretations, and effectively serve as the city's non-staff attorney. Larger cities typically have their own on-staff attorney or several attorneys. It's very common for municipalities our size to have a contract legal service to handle their legal affairs. So they would be our de facto city attorney, non-staff status. So Flaherty and Hood, and we do have a guest today, Robert Scott, who's a partner with Flaherty and Hood, and I've worked with Robert over the last year on a couple of different issues regarding wastewater, utility, and environmental law. And Flaherty and Hood is a qualified candidate. They represent a number of cities across the state of Minnesota. They work very closely. They are not, by definition, the coalition for greater Minnesota cities, but they work very closely with that group, which is a strong advocate for cities in greater Minnesota, and an organization with whom this city has a long history of interaction and cooperation. And just as a refresher, the city council does reserve the right to reject any proposal it receives. My recommendation tonight, after reviewing the proposal from Flaherty and Hood, would be to amend. It's not formal action, but would be amending the initial timeline and foregoing a formal interview of Flaherty and Hood, and instead, my ask is that council vote to direct me to work directly with Flaherty and Hood on contract negotiations for a legal services contract to extend from January 2023 to a future date. And again, Mr. Scott, I can't recall if he's traveling today or if he's preparing to travel, but wanted to be here in person, but I did let him know we could have him virtually, and he's joined us tonight. So if there are any specific questions, or if Robert, you'd like to share anything, this isn't really a formal interview, but if there are questions for Robert that council members would like to direct to him the certain ways.
Is he there?
Mayor, members of the council, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Okay, great. So for those of you I may not have met, my name is Robert Scott, shareholder at Flaherty and Hood. Flaherty and Hood is a law firm out of St. Paul, but we primarily represent city governments in greater Minnesota. And we have a strong practice in serving as general counsel / civil city attorneys for cities of similar size to Sueur, of smaller and bigger as well. I personally am the city attorney in the cities of Wilmer and New Ulm, and can coordinate the same for the cities of Little Falls. And our firm works for, I think, over a couple dozen cities in greater Minnesota as well. I know LeSueur well. I have represented LeSueur on specific projects, both directly with the city as a client and through the Joint Powers Utilities Commission when that was in existence with the city of Henderson. I think we've done, as a firm, quite a bit of good work for the city over the years. We would certainly welcome the opportunity if there's a need for the city to serve as your city attorney. Having said that, I know that we did submit a proposal a couple years ago, and the city has gone with the firm, another reputable firm of Corey and Rupi. So of course, if the city wishes to continue that relationship, we would have the utmost respect for that decision. But having said that, if there is an opportunity for us to help the city and serve the city as city attorney or in any other capacity, we would of course welcome that opportunity, and I personally would be very appreciative. I would be more than happy to try and answer any questions the council may have tonight about our proposal, or other questions about our firm that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. We appreciate you being with us tonight. We do look forward to negotiating with your firm as we move ahead. We hope to have some representation with some type of contract quite quickly. So, and we do have a little bit of a track record with you. So we know your firm. We don't know you well, but we do have a little bit of a history with you. At this time, I'm going to ask if any council members have any questions, comments?
Actually, Mr. Roby, to clarify one thing. It's not in the packet, but you did have it on one of the first slides. That is that with Corey and Rupi, our agreement ends on 31 December of this year, but there are provisions in there if we wanted to extend it for up to 2 years. Just to be clear for everybody so we know.
Councilman Groveman is correct that the agreement with Corey Ruby does allow for 2 negotiated extensions should council opt to go in that direction.
Thank you.
One quick question, maybe for Mr. Roby. As we move forward, and we're going to continue negotiations with Flaherty and Hood, if something were to come up early in January, who is it we turn to?
That's a great question, Mr. Mayor. And Mr. Scott and I had a conversation last week where we discussed and exchanged some emails around a bridge agreement of sorts that would cover the city from January 1st until such time that the city and Flaherty and Hood could reach an agreement. And the direction that the suggestion that I received from Mr. Scott, Flaherty and Hood, is that given the city's established relationship with Flaherty and Hood, that such an agreement would not be necessary, that Flaherty and Hood could serve in whatever manner the city required on an interim basis without a long-term agreement in place.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I'll ask the city administrator again. Just a matter of clarity. I think the council members know this, but perhaps the public does not. This is for civil matters. For criminal prosecutions, we will still use Anderson and Skubitz. Is that correct?
That's correct. At this time, the police department would still use Anderson and Skubitz. It's not uncommon for, depending on the severity of the case or those involved in the case, for those cases to be referred directly to Sueur County. But for most prosecutorial needs, Anderson and Skubitz would still be utilized.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
Mayor Kirby.
Yes, sir.
Robert, I wanted to say my appreciation to you guys for submitting the proposal. Was very much appreciative 2 years ago when we did this process, and I'm excited to have you back at the table again. We've had a great partnership just in my time here with Murphy and now with the projects that we've had you working with us just in the city. So I appreciate that. And I'm excited hopefully to move forward tonight.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Scott, we appreciate you being with us tonight, and we appreciate your input and looking forward to negotiating with you as we move ahead.
Likewise, Mayor, members of the council, thank you for the opportunity tonight, and have a great rest of the holidays.
Happy New Year to you.
Same to you. Thank you.
Any other questions, comments before I ask for this action request to move forward? If not, I'm looking for a motion for the council to authorize staff to enter a direct negotiation for Flaherty Hood to provide civil attorney services to the city of Sueur. The contract for consideration would be scheduled for presentation to the city council at its January 23rd, 2022 meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I'm so moved.
Thank you, Councilmember Krogman, seconded by Councilmember Sullivan. Any other comments, concerns?
Yeah, and maybe I missed something here, but so we're not interested in considering extending our contract?
Would you like me to speak to that?
Please do. You can review what we talked about in the past meetings.
Sure. So it is an option for council to consider. And while I've been with the city just about 2 years now, my best view of the discovery that has gone on at a city level around legal services has been 2.5 years ago, the city, for the first time in many decades, explored a legal services from a firm that specializes in municipal law, that knows state statute, that knows development law front and back. That was seen as a need at that time. Council explored it. Council took that new avenue to move away from a local attorney into specialized municipal law. Since that time, I think the city, both from a staff standpoint, but also to an extent from a council and committee standpoint, has recognized that that was a good step, but there are some additional needs around things such as timely response for things that warranted some exploration here as we came to the end of this contract. If that answers your question.
Yep. And then how long is a typical contract for, I mean, is it a 2-year is that the typical life cycle?
A minimum of 2 years. At this point, my goal would be to look at a minimum 3-year contract, a 3-year contract with potential extensions beyond that, to give us enough time to acclimate to one another. And
yeah,
some of these things take several years to work through cases.
And Joe, just to speak to it, in the past, like even in the past 2 years since we signed on with Corey and Roop, we've used Flaherty and Hood on several because we would realize the need to have a broader spectrum than just what he could provide.
That's correct. So while Corey Ruby is our city's legal counsel, I went back and reviewed the council agenda from that meeting, and the recommendation to council at that time, which was adopted by city council, was that Corey Ruby would be brought on under contract to perform municipal legal services, but that Flaherty Hood would be not technically retained, but utilized by the city for complex legal issues. And so the city has continued to do that with Flaherty since that time.
I think the legal world is getting a little bit like the medical world, of specialized services. And that's kind of what we're looking at. And also a firm that can handle things in a very timely fashion. So.
thank you.
All right. We had a motion from, I can't remember anymore, Councilmember Krogman and Councilmember Sullivan. Any other discussion, comments, or concerns? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? The ayes have it. Moving on to comments, reports, items of appreciation. Council members, this is your opportunity to share any commission work you've been doing, things happening in our community. As always, we'll start with Councilmember Hunt.
I have nothing tonight.
Thank you. Moving on to Councilmember Crowman.
I just have one, Mr. Mayor. The Minnesota Municipal Power Agency, MMPA, as we commonly refer to it, did vote last week to extend their offer for us to extend our contract with them under a power sales agreement. They're asking us to do that until the extension we're being asked to enter into would be until 2060. Our current contract goes to 2040. The deadline was 31 December of this year originally. 2 of the 12 cities, Olivia and Sueur, have not had those considered yet before their councils. And the MMPA board voted this last week to extend the opportunity to do that, to sign that extension to 31 March of 2022. I've been in extensive conversation with our city administrator and our public works director, public services, excuse me, and they will be carrying the ball, bringing that into you sometime next year. There's no panic on this whatsoever. I just want to let you know that the extension for the extension, if I may say so, was granted. So, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for all your work with MMPA. You're going to continue to do work with us on there. And I know that's it's a commission with a lot of complex things happening, a lot of moving parts. So Councilmember Crowman, thank you for all your work there. And thank you for getting us that extension on that extension. So those things will be considered. Moving on to Councilmember Schleter.
I have nothing other than to wish everyone a safe new year.
Thank you. Councilmember Sullivan.
I have nothing to report, just want to take the opportunity to thank Councilmember Krogman for his time on the council. His wisdom here.
Thank you. Councilmember Swanberg.
Yeah, same as Mr. Sullivan. Thank you, Mr. Krogman, for your dedicated service. You have certainly left your mark here, and we are going to miss you.
Thank you. Councilmember Williams.
I'd just like to say kudos to the city and the PD for sponsoring that active, I call it active shooter, the violence training. Having participated in one of those in the past, it's very extremely realistic. You almost are that you were actually experiencing it. So it's great training, great collaboration, having all the different entities there. I'm sure it'll be very interesting. I'd love to be there and watch it, but I got other duties to do. So great job getting that to come to this community. It'll be good training for everybody. So. And again, Newell, thank you. From the little bit that I've been, I really appreciate and wish you had you in our back pocket. So, thank you.
Thank you. All I have to share is I want to wish the community and the city of Sueur Happy New Year. And again, Newell, I thought the last meeting was going to be my last meeting with you, but I'm here tonight. We did recognize you at the last meeting with that certificate, but I want to personally thank you again for your years of service to this community on this council, and I am going to continue to look for your help with our commissions as we move forward. You take care. God bless. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to dismiss this meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
You did it.
Next meeting.